Sarah Chen adjusted her outdated council uniform one last time, feeling the worn fabric beneath her fingers. Around her, the grand chamber of the Galactic Council sparkled with bioluminescent crystals and floating holograms, a testament to the advanced species' love of displays. The other representatives' newest uniforms shifted colors with their moods, while hers remained a simple blue. Just another reminder of humanity's primitive status. She took a deep breath, clutching the data crystal containing Earth's proposal. 50 years of research, testing, and success compressed into one tiny crystal. The complete revolution in energy generation that had transformed the Sol system from a resource-hungry cluster of colonies into a self-sustaining paradise. The Council recognizes Earth's junior representative, announced High Counselor Ixel, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns that convey barely concealed boredom. You may present your proposal. Sarah walked to the central podium, her footsteps echoing through the vast chamber. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy watched with that familiar mix of condescension and disinterest. She'd seen that look for all 5 years of her posting year. Esteemed Council, she began, inserting the crystal. A hologram bloomed above her. Earth's solar system in miniature. I present Project Harmony. The image zoomed in on Mercury, showing the vast network of solar collectors that seemed to dance around the planet in an intricate ballet. By combining orbital mechanics with principles derived from human dance and music, a ripple of barely suppressed laughter echoed through the chamber. Sarah continued, her smile never wavering. We've achieved 98% energy efficiency. The system adapts like a living organism, drawing on patterns found in nature. Junior Representative, interrupted Sub-Counselor Vex, their tentacles writhing in what humans had learned meant amusement. Are you suggesting we should power our worlds through interpretive dance? More laughter. Sarah's smile grew warmer. The hologram shifted to Venus, showing the floating cities powered by the new system. The results speak for themselves. Our entire system runs on this network now. We've eliminated energy poverty, reduced environmental impact to near zero, and, through primitive methods that any advanced civilization abandoned millennia ago, Ixel cut in. The Council appreciates Earth's creative attempt, but we have proper solutions in development. Sarah paused, looking at the faces and other sensory organs around her. She saw the same dismissal she'd witnessed countless times before, but today was different. Today, humanity had finally learned the lesson they'd been teaching. With deliberate care, she reached up and unpinned her council badge. The small motion somehow silenced the entire chamber. Humanity thanks the Galactic Council for its guidance over the past century, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the sudden stillness. We've learned a great deal about who we are and who we wish to become. Effective immediately, Earth and all human colonies withdraw from the Galactic Council. We'll maintain our trading agreements with individual worlds, but will no longer participate in council affairs. She placed her badge on the podium with a soft click that seemed to echo forever. Wait, Ixel said, their crystalline form shifting to a frequency humans had learned meant confusion. You can't simply. We can. We have. Good day, counselors. Sarah turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps steady and unhurried. Behind her, the hologram still showed humanity's achievements. Achievements that would now remain solely in human hands. She paused at the doorway, turned, and offered one last warm smile. We'll leave the light on for you, just in case. The doors whispered shut behind her, leaving the council in stunned silence, still staring at the empty podium where a simple metal badge caught the light of 1,000 worlds. Chief Engineer 6427 had laughed along with everyone else when humans departed the council. Now, 30 days later, floating in the maintenance shaft of Centauri Hub's primary life support system, that laughter felt like a distant dream. Status report. They chittered into their neural link, all 6 appendages working simultaneously on different parts of the system. The humans had designed it that way. Perfect for species with multiple limbs, Just one of those primitive considerations nobody had appreciated until now. Level 42 oxygen recyclers failing, came the response. Levels 15 through 38 reporting temperature fluctuations. Hydroponics sector showing critical signs. ZX427 extended their sensory filaments into the machinery, searching for the problem. The interface felt wrong. Before, the system had practically guided their filaments to the right connections. Now it felt dead, unresponsive. Pull up the human maintenance protocols, they ordered, trying to keep the desperation from their voice. 2 million beings lived on Centauroid Hub, representing over 300 species. Each one required different atmospheric conditions, different gravity levels, different light spectrums, all seamlessly managed by this supposedly simple human system. Unable to access protocols, their assistant reported. They were stored in the human format. What did they call it? Crayon drawings. ZX427 remembered, mandibles clicking in frustration. The humans had left their maintenance manuals in children's picture books, claiming it made them accessible to everyone. The council had seen it as proof of human backwardness. Now, those crude drawings were worth more than crystalline data cores. A soft tune began playing through the station speakers, another primitive human touch. The system played music when it needed attention, different songs for different problems. They'd called it the warning dance. Warning, the station's AI announced in multiple languages. Atmospheric harmonization failing in sectors 7 through 219. Please remain calm. ZX427 moved faster, their filaments prodding deeper. The humans had installed these systems across thousands of stations, each one slightly different, each one adapted to local needs. They'd called it going with the flow, another concept the council had dismissed as unscientific. Chief, a new voice broke in. We've got reports from Proxima Station and Gateway Hub. Their systems are failing too. It's happening everywhere. Of course it was. Humans had built their systems to talk to each other, to learn and adapt. They'd shown the council the network diagrams as interpretive dance performances. Too primitive, the council had said. Replace them with proper protocols. Except nobody had replaced them, because the human systems worked perfectly. Until now. ZX427's filaments finally found something. A maintenance port they'd never noticed before, hidden behind what looked like decorative paneling. Inside was a simple interface with icons that looked like children's drawings. Impossible, they whispered. The humans hadn't just built a system. They'd built a teaching tool, disguising complex engineering principles as simple images and sounds. Every maintenance check had been a lesson, every repair a step in understanding their methodology. The music changed tone, becoming more urgent. In the distance, environmental alarms began to sound. Chief, their assistant's voice shook. The council's requesting emergency status reports. They're asking if anyone still has access to human engineering crews. ZX427 stared at the childlike interface before them, finally understanding. Humans hadn't walked away from a council that dismissed them. They'd walked away from students who weren't ready to learn. Tell them, they said, extending their filaments toward the simple icons, that we should have paid more attention in class. Above them, the station's lights flickered, and the music played on. Agricultural Director Pella pressed her hand against the dying soil of Verdant's largest farm complex, her sensitive skin pods detecting the chemical imbalances that their most advanced sensors had somehow missed. Around her, the once vibrant purple fields of star wheat stretched to the horizon, now turning an alarming shade of gray. Play the recording again, she instructed her assistant. The sound of human children singing filled the air, a simple melody about planting seasons that the human farmers had taught local youngsters. The council had called it quaint folklore. Now, Pella understood it was anything but. Correlate the song's rhythm with our soil degradation patterns, she said, her skin pods tingling as they absorbed data. The results appeared in her visual cortex. A perfect match. The song's tempo mapped exactly to the optimal mineral cycling patterns in healthy soil. "Director," her assistant's voice wavered. "The northern continent's yields just dropped another 12%. The automated systems can't compensate." Pella stood, brushing gray soil from her hands. The human farmers had insisted on playing these songs during planting, on teaching them to children, on making their agricultural methods seem like simple games and traditions. They'd explained that farming was about feeling the rhythm of the land, a concept that had earned them endless mockery from the council's agricultural experts. "Show me the human planting dance patterns," she said. Holographic overlays appeared, showing the seemingly random paths human farmers had walked while sowing crops. The council had replaced those inefficient paths with straight, optimized rows managed by automated systems. "Layer them with soil nutrient maps." The overlay shifted, and Pella's throat sacs constricted in shock. The dancing paths matched perfect distribution patterns for mineral replenishment. Every skip, every twirl, every random movement had been precisely calculated to maintain soil health. "They encoded their agricultural science into children's games," she whispered. "They made it so simple that even a child could carry their knowledge forward." Her assistant's skin shifted to anxiety purple. "The council's demanding answers. The other farming worlds are reporting similar failures. Without Verdant's exports." Pella moved to a storage unit and pulled out a dusty box of human teaching materials they'd kept as anthropological curiosities. Inside were wooden toys, colored strings, and simple puzzles. She picked up a child's string game device, labeled Cat's Cradle. "Look at this pattern," she said, manipulating the strings. The shapes she created matched their crop rotation diagrams perfectly. Every human game taught their farming principles. "We thought they were being primitive, but they were being teachers," her assistant finished. A distant rumble drew their attention. On the horizon, automated harvesting machines sat idle in the fields, their optimized protocols useless against the failing crops. The sound came again, soil fracturing as vital microorganisms died off, taking centuries of carefully managed ecosystems with them. "Send word to the council," Pella said, carefully pocketing the string game. "Tell them we've discovered that human agricultural methods weren't primitive traditions. They were—" She paused, her skin pods detecting the last traces of life, fading from the soil beneath her feet. They were an entire civilization's knowledge encoded into songs and games and dances, and we just threw it away. She looked out over the dying fields, remembering how the human farmers would gather children to play their simple games as the sun set. In the distance, automated systems continued to follow their perfect, straight lines, unaware that the very soil beneath them was dying. "And tell them," she added softly, "that I finally understand why humans taught farming with music, because now, all I can hear is the silence." Harmonious wind through crystal floated motionless in the center of the grand resonance chamber, her crystalline form refracting the stage lights into rainbow patterns that nobody watched. The seats, usually filled to capacity, sat mostly empty. Those few audience members present shifted restlessly, their various sensory organs showing signs of discomfort or boredom. She began her signature piece, Symphony of the Unified Spheres, vibrating her crystal lattices in mathematically perfect frequencies. The sound resonated through the chamber in precise harmonies, each note calculated to stimulate pleasure centers across 17 different neural patterns. A group of Methan brothers near the front quietly bubbled their way toward the exit. Harmonious wind stopped, her crystal matrix dulling in confusion. This piece had won her the Grand Stellar Award 3 cycles ago. What had changed? "My deepest apologies," she broadcast to the remaining audience. "Perhaps something more traditional." She shifted her harmonics to an ancient Jovian sound pattern, her facets sparkling with technically flawless precision. "It's not you," called out a voice, a quantum collective shimmering in the third row. It feels empty now, like eating nutrient paste instead of real food." Harmonious wind descended to the stage, memories flickering through her crystal matrix. She remembered the human musicians who used to collaborate with her, adding their imperfect voices and instruments to her precise harmonies. The council had called it cultural charity, letting primitive species perform alongside proper artists. "When did we last have human performers?" she asked the chamber's eye. 87 days since human departure from council space, the AI responded. "Would you like to review the last collaborative performance?" "Yes." "Display full sensory record." The chamber filled with a holographic replay. Harmonious Wind watched herself performing with a human string quartet. Their timing had been imprecise by crystal standards, their frequencies slightly off perfect pitch. But as she observed the audience reactions, she noticed something she'd missed before. The Methan brothers' bubbles had synchronized with the human cellist's bow strokes. The quantum collective had pulsed in time with the violinist's subtle body movements. Even the photonic observers, normally invisible, had manifested visual forms that danced with the musical phrases. "Analysis," she commanded. "Compare audience neural patterns between solo and human collaborative performances." The results shocked her crystalline core. During her solo performances, each species showed distinct, isolated pleasure responses. But with humans performing, the patterns synchronized across species barriers. Somehow, their musical imperfections had been bridging fundamental biological differences. "Access Human Performance Theory Archives," she ordered, her crystal matrix humming with revelation. Text appeared. "Music isn't about perfect notes. It's about the spaces between them. That's where souls meet and dance." Sarah Chen, Earth's last junior representative, in her thesis on cross-species artistic communication. Harmonious Wind's crystal matrix shifted to a deep blue of understanding. Humans hadn't been adding primitive elements to galactic art. They'd been teaching the galaxy how to connect emotionally, disguising sophisticated synapsology as simple musical collaboration. She turned to the remaining audience members. "I apologize, but I must cancel today's performance. I need to study." Her facets sparkled with determination. "Not to be more perfect, but to be more human," suggested the quantum collective. "Connected," she corrected, her crystal matrix pulsing with newfound purpose. They weren't just making music with us. They were teaching us how to truly hear each other. In the emptying chamber, she began to play again, this time deliberately imperfect, searching for that elusive space between the notes where different souls could meet and dance. Zirith floated in her family's knowledge pod, her translucent tentacles wrapped around an ancient human learning device called a puzzle cube. Her parent unit, High Counselor Ixel, had forbidden her from accessing human materials, calling them developmental distractions. But Zirith couldn't stop thinking about the strange patterns she'd discovered. Cross-reference complete. Her neural assistant chimed. Above her, holographic data streams showed thousands of human educational programs, each one seemingly designed for a specific species. Pattern analysis ready. She rotated the puzzle cube, watching its colors shift. "Show me the learning progression statistics for the Arc-6 hive minds before and after human educational contact." The data materialized. A stunning upward curve. The supposedly primitive humans had somehow taught abstract mathematics to beings that thought only in scent patterns. Now overlay the teaching methods used by the Council's Advanced Education Division. A second curve appeared, nearly flat. The Council's sophisticated neural interfaces and direct knowledge transfers had barely made an impact. Zirith's tentacles rippled with excitement. "Computer, analyze human teaching tools across all species. Look for common elements." "Working," the computer hummed. "Analysis shows recurring use of physical objects, stories, games, songs, social interaction, and," it paused, "mistakes. Mistakes." Zirith wrapped a tentacle around her favorite human teaching toy, a simple string that could form complex geometric patterns. Human educational methods consistently incorporate deliberate errors and problem-solving opportunities. Students are encouraged to identify and correct mistakes as part of the learning process. Xerith's chromatophores flashed with revelation. She'd been taught that perfect knowledge transfer was the goal of education. But humans taught through discovery, through trial and error, through the joy of figuring things out. "Show me the human kindergarten protocols," she requested. The pod filled with images of young beings from countless species playing together with simple toys, singing songs, making art. Cross-referenced these activities with advanced theoretical physics principles. The computer processed for a long moment. Then the pod exploded with connections. The finger-painting exercises mapped perfectly to quantum field theories. The playground games demonstrated orbital mechanics. The sing-along songs encoded complex mathematical formulas. They hid advanced knowledge in children's games. Xerith whispered, her skin glowing with wonder. They'd made it fun. Her neural assistant pinged urgently. "Counselor Xerith, the council's emergency session is beginning. They're discussing the cascading system failures across." "I need to show them," she interrupted, gathering her human teaching tools. "Computer, prepare a full presentation on human educational methodology. Focus on their meta-learning principles." As she rushed toward the council chamber, her tentacles still clutching the puzzle cube, Xerith finally understood. Humans hadn't been primitive. They'd been practicing the highest form of teaching. They'd found ways to make complex knowledge accessible to everyone, hiding sophistication behind simplicity. She burst into the council chamber, interrupting a heated debate about failing systems. "Honorable Council," she announced, her young voice carrying across the space where Sarah Chen had once stood. "I know why our systems are failing. I know why we can't replace human innovations." Her parent unit's crystalline form shifted in disapproval, but Xerith continued, holding up the puzzle cube. "We thought humans were building things for us, but they weren't. They were teaching us how to build things ourselves." The cube's colors caught the light, spinning patterns of possibility through the chamber. "And I can prove it," she added softly, "if you're ready to learn." The diplomatic vessel, Humble Inquiry, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, carrying its unlikely crew. Young Xerith pressed her tentacles against the viewport, her chromatophores flashing with excitement. Beside her, Harmonious Wind-Through Crystal sparkled with anticipation, while Agricultural Director Pella's skin pods tingled with nervous energy. Chief Engineer Zix 427 monitored the ship's systems, all 6 appendages moving across interfaces that felt clumsy after studying human designs. "That can't be Venus," Pella whispered, her skin pods detecting impossible readings from the second planet. Where their records showed a toxic hellscape, they saw a world wrapped in silver clouds, dotted with floating cities that danced through the atmosphere in intricate patterns. "Those movements," Harmonious Wind chimed, her crystal matrix vibrating in recognition. "They're following music. The entire city network is performing an orbital ballet." Their sensors picked up a transmission, a simple greeting played on what humans called an acoustic guitar. Hidden in the melody were precise navigation instructions, mathematical poetry guiding them safely through the solar system. Mars glowed green and blue in the distance, its surface transformed. The automated systems detected vast networks of interconnected ecosystems, each one supporting the others in ways that made their most advanced terraforming theories look primitive by comparison. "Look at the asteroid belt," Zix 427 chittered in amazement. The space between Mars and Jupiter had been transformed into a vast network of habitats, all moving in synchronized orbits that somehow never needed adjustment. They turned celestial mechanics into an art form. A small ship approached, simple in design, yet moving with impossible grace. Its pilot's voice came through clear and friendly. "Welcome to Sol. We've been expecting you." "You have?" Xerith asked, surprised. "Of course," the pilot chuckled. "We might have left the council, but we never stopped watching out for our neighbors. Your systems are failing, and you've started asking the right questions. Perfect timing." The pilot guided them toward Earth, taking a route that showed them every wonder of the solar system. They saw Mercury's dance of solar collectors, now powering not just human civilization, but feeding excess energy into a vast storage network. They witnessed Jupiter's moons transformed into research stations, each one dedicated to solving different galactic problems. But Pella struggled to process what she was seeing. All of this was possible with those simple systems you gave us, the ones encoded in children's games and songs. Those weren't just systems, their guide explained as Earth came into view, blue and green and more beautiful than their records suggested. They were seeds, each one designed to grow differently depending on who used it and how they learned from it. We didn't give you technology. We gave you tools to develop your own. The planet below them teemed with life and innovation, but not in the sterile, automated way of council worlds. Everything moved with natural rhythm, buildings and vehicles and people all flowing together in what looked like chaos, but was actually a dance of perfect efficiency. "Welcome to Earth," the pilot said as they descended toward a landing pad that adjusted its position to match their ship perfectly. "We've kept your rooms ready, and the teaching gardens are in full bloom. After all," and they could hear the smile in his voice, "the best way to learn is to see it for yourself." "You're willing to teach us?" Harmonious Wind asked, her crystal matrix shifting to hopeful frequencies, "even after how the council treated you?" "Of course," came the reply. "That's what we've been doing all along." The diplomatic team sat in Earth's primary learning garden, surrounded by what appeared to be simple plants, but were actually living demonstrations of advanced ecological principles. Zirith watched in fascination as a group of human children played nearby, their game of hopscotch secretly teaching them quantum positioning. "I still don't understand," Zix 427 admitted, their sensory filaments gently examining a flowering plant that somehow regulated atmospheric composition. "You achieved all of this by making things simpler rather than more advanced." Their guide, Dr. Maya Chen, Sarah Chen's granddaughter, smiled as she poured tea in the traditional human way. Each movement of the ceremony, they had learned, encoded principles of fluid dynamics and thermal management. "What seems simpler to you?" she asked, holding up a seed in one hand and a complex mechanical replicator in the other. "This seed contains instructions to build a tree, adapt to its environment, repair itself, and create more seeds. The replicator can only make identical copies." Harmonious Wind's crystal matrix shifted in understanding. "The seed is more sophisticated because it can evolve." "Exactly," Maya nodded. "We discovered that the most advanced technology isn't the most complicated, it's the most adaptable. Everything we built, we designed to grow and change with its users." Pella's skin pods tingled as she examined the garden's irrigation system, which looked primitive but operated with incredible efficiency. "Your farming songs, they weren't just instructions, were they? They were frameworks," Maya explained. "Each culture that learned them adapted the rhythms to their own environment, their own needs. The basic principles remained, but the implementation evolved naturally." "Like biological evolution," Xirith exclaimed, her tentacles rippling with excitement. "You weren't giving solutions, you were creating conditions for solutions to evolve." Maya beamed at the young alien. "Now you're thinking like a human. Every technology we shared was designed to be a starting point, not an end point. We made them seem simple so others would feel comfortable changing them, improving them." Around them, the garden shifted subtly, plants moving to optimize sunlight and shade. What looked like natural movement was actually an intricate dance of photosynthesis and energy distribution. "The council always sought perfect solutions," Harmonious Wind observed, her crystal surfaces reflecting the garden's patterns. "But you sought growing solutions." "Perfection is static," Maya agreed. "Life is dynamic. That's why we encoded our most advanced principles in games and songs and simple tools. They invite participation, modification, evolution." 6427's filaments curled in sudden realization. "The station systems, they weren't failing because you left. They were failing because we never learned to help them grow." "And now you understand why we walked away," Maya said softly. You couldn't learn to grow while seeing us as primitive. You had to discover the sophistication in simplicity for yourselves. A breeze carried the laughter of children through the garden. The diplomatic team watched as the young ones played their seemingly simple games, each one containing layers of scientific principles, each one teaching without seeming to teach. "We're ready to learn now," Xerith declared, her chromatophores glowing with determination. "Not just to copy your solutions, but to understand how you think." Maya smiled, pouring another round of tea in movements that contained centuries of refined knowledge. "Then let's begin with something simple," she said, pulling out a piece of string. "Have you ever played cat's cradle?" Sarah Chen, now in her 80s, stood in the transformed council chamber, her hand resting on the same podium she had walked away from decades ago. The room had changed. Gone were the stark displays of technological superiority, replaced by living gardens and interactive learning spaces where beings of all species gathered to share knowledge. "The Galactic Innovation Commons is now officially open," she announced to the assembled representatives. Her old council badge sat in a simple display case, surrounded by children's drawings that contained advanced engineering principles. Let today mark the beginning of a new approach to galactic cooperation. Xerith, now a respected Sino-education specialist, floated nearby, her tentacles gently guiding a group of mixed-species children through a game that taught faster-than-light physics. Harmonious wind-through crystal performed with a dozen different species, their imperfect harmonies creating something more beautiful than mathematical precision could achieve. "Did you know this would happen?" Agricultural Director Pella asked Sarah, her skin pods sensing the vibrant life flowing through the chamber's new hybrid ecosystems. "When you walked away, did you plan for this?" Sarah smiled. Watching Chief Engineer Zix 427 teach a group of students how to repair complex systems using simple tools and understanding rather than automated diagnostics. "We planned to teach, not to control." The rest evolved naturally, just like life itself. Above them, the chamber's ceiling had been replaced by a transparent dome showing the stars. Ships of all species moved in graceful patterns that echoed the orbital dances of Earth's cities, each one adding its own unique movement to the cosmic ballet. "The Council's authority hasn't been dissolved," a former High Counselor observed. "It evolved into something new." "Like a seed growing into a forest," Sarah agreed. "Each species contributing, each one learning and teaching in their own way. No more hierarchies of advanced and primitive, just different approaches to understanding the universe." A group of children ran past, playing a new game that combined traditional human hopscotch with Arctic scent patterns and crystalline harmonics. In their play, they were unknowingly developing new theories of interdimensional physics. "We're receiving reports from across the galaxy," Xerith announced, her chromatophores glowing with joy. "The new hybrid systems are showing a 300% increase in efficiency, and they're still evolving. Each species is adding their own innovations to the foundation you built." Sarah walked to her old badge, now a historical reminder of a different time. Next to it, she placed a simple piece of string, the same one she had used to teach her first alien friend about geometric principles through Cat's Cradle. "Humanity never needed to prove we were advanced," she said softly. "We needed to prove that everyone could advance together. Not through perfect solutions imposed from above, but through shared discovery, through play and music and the joy of figuring things out." Outside, the stars seemed to twinkle in harmony with the chamber's activities. Somewhere out there, vessels of every species were discovering new worlds, each one carrying the seeds of human teaching methods combined with their own unique approaches. And now, Sarah smiled, watching the next generation already building on what humanity had started. The real dance begins. A child, she couldn't even tell what species, tugged at her sleeve. "Teacher," they asked, holding up a puzzle cube that now incorporated elements from a dozen different worlds, "will you show us how to play?" Sarah Chen, who had once walked away from the galaxy's most powerful institution, sat down on the floor with the children. "Of course," she said, as she had always said. "Let's learn together." Above them, the stars danced on, and in every corner of the galaxy, beings of all kinds were discovering the simple truth the humans had known all along. The greatest achievement isn't in reaching the top, but in helping everyone rise together.